Our next topic is about what you mentioned, Brandon, marijuana in sports, and especially I think we're going to really talk about the NFL and should marijuana be legal, and two, what's the NFL's thought process around it not being legal?
Yeah, no, I think like you're right. NFL is kind of probably be the lead in this topic, but I would say even across all professional sports. And in my opinion, I think it's just a little too strict. All right. So, and hear me out on that. I know it promotes things and these people are role models. I'm not saying for the NFL or the NBA to put like a weed logo on next to their logo or like on the football or anything. It's just something that a lot of players use, especially in the NFL, as like an option instead of having to use painkillers or to get a pain shot, like Toradol or anything like that. So I think, even bringing up this guy, Percy Harvin, one of the most exciting players in college football of all time, and then a great player in the NFL himself, had an interview where he said he never played a game, not in high school, not in college, not in the NFL, where he hadn't smoked marijuana before and wasn't high. He never tested positive in the NFL, all right, but yet they catch Josh Gordon repeatedly. So I think it's one of these things where, hey, NFL, how strict is your program where you're not even catching some of these guys that are saying they were playing high every game and not testing positive not once, but then you're catching Josh Gordon repeatedly. So I think my thing is, hey, either step up your testing so you're catching these guys, and because you have it as an actual rule, or eliminate that rule and have it as not a banned substance, so these guys can use it, especially as an alternative to painkillers, because it's been proven as that it can help people. And obviously, we've seen, especially in this country, the opioid addiction is crazy, and the opioid epidemic has killed, I'd say millions of people. Yep. So if we can have a safer option for people, and obviously you're seeing that with a lot of states going to medical marijuana. I believe there's like 35 or 37 states out of the 50 that have medical marijuana. And I believe there's 15 to 20 that have recreational laws at this point. So I think we're starting to see it coming down the line that it's going to be legal across the United States sooner than we think, maybe within the next 5 or 10 years, legal in all 50 states. So I think it's one of these things that professional leagues are going to have to start looking at it and seeing, are they going to be able to change this rule over these next coming years, especially the NFL and the NBA, where you're having a lot of your players that are saying that they do use marijuana as either a recreational substance or as an option instead of having to use pain substances. So I'm all for it. I think it's something that they definitely need to explore, and they need to bring in players and interview them and have them be part of the process as well.
Yeah, no question. I'm all for it. I think, when you hear like Ryan Leaf's story, or even, Brett Favre was addicted to painkillers when he was playing with the Packers. And there's been, I'm sure, countless other players that we don't even know about that, maybe got addicted to opioids, or even who knows if they committed suicide or anything, who knows? I think a lot of players do at the NFL level, college level, and even high school level. They get addicted to those things, and then that's bad news. I think the problem, or at least whether it's a problem or an excuse for the NFL to not make it legal, is that, like you mentioned, it's not legal across the country. It's got to be federal in order for the NFL to say, okay, this is now legal in our sport. Because I think what happens is, if Josh Gordon were with the Patriots still, and he was, using marijuana, it's legal here in Massachusetts, and he was living in Massachusetts, he could do it. But another player that's in another state where it's not legal, is that okay for that player to do it there? Because now you're really getting into the law. You're saying this player is breaking the law, but the NFL's okay with it. I think it's crazy that it's not federal. I think marijuana should be legal because of the way that players can use it to deal with the pain. Some folks who have MS or other ailments that are very painful use it for the pain as well. So I think it just makes sense. And even Gronk talked about using cannabis for things like that too. When he was away from football, he used it, and then he had to stop using it to come back and play for the Bucs. So I think it's important that the NFL does look into, this being legal down the line to cope with the pain. But again, the question is, does it have to be federally legal across the country for a league that has teams across the country to then be able to say it's okay for our players to use this, because technically the players are breaking the law in other states where marijuana is legal?
Totally, I get that. My one thing would be, I think HGH, so human growth hormone, I think is legal if you have a doctor's prescription for it. But in professional sports, it's still illegal. So I think that's really one of those things where I think these leagues could still say, hey, we're going to have it be legal, even though it's not legal across all 50 states, we're going to just take it off the list of banned substances, and we're not going to actually test for it. So it's not like they're actually saying or promoting it. They're just not going to look for it anymore. So I think it's one of those things where, like you said, Gronk was especially saying that, like, he used cannabis, but he also used a ton of CBD. And CBD is, the main property that is in cannabis that helps with medical ailments. And you've seen a lot of athletes just use CBD by itself and not cannabis either. So I think that's one of those things where I think all the leagues need to definitely start looking at both, looking at cannabis itself and marijuana, and also looking at CBD by itself, and seeing that if they can just take that off the list of banned substances.